This is Orange Nation Overtime with Stephen Fonte and Paulie Sibilia.
Welcome into Orange Nation Overtime, everyone. Alongside Paulie Sibilia, I'm Stephen Fonte. Rough weekend up on the SU Hill. Men's basketball, women's basketball, men's lacrosse, all going down to defeat. We started the show this afternoon, obviously talking men's basketball. Well, we actually started the show talking USA Hockey for about 2 minutes. Right? What a win by USA Hockey. But then we got into men's basketball, and a 77-64 loss to North Carolina. This game Saturday went the way so many of the games have gone this year. Close for a while. It's tied at 44, 12 minutes to go. Carolina goes on a run, and SU just couldn't respond.
Yeah, it's same day, same stuff, as the kids would say. And it's
same
just,
bat time, same bat channel.
Yeah, it's just, and I think we're on the, I think we're just marching it out. We're just going through the motions. Out the string. We're going through the motions, and I think, unfortunately, the team is too at this point.
3 for 17 from three-point range. That has been an issue this year. And, as we talked about, they just haven't been able to put it all together. And against the top 20 team, you got to be able to put it all together. If it's, one game it's turnovers, one game it's rebounding, one game, this game they couldn't make a 3 for 17. Adrian Autry talked afterwards about defensively they were good enough. They held Carolina to 33 points in the first half. They just weren't good enough offensively, didn't make enough shots, and Carolina wins the game going away, and it's the frustration continues, and now they've got 3 games left in the regular season. It doesn't seem like any combination right now gets you even close to the conversation of the NCAA tournament. All that matters is Charlotte, and if they can go on a run, that's got to be where they go on the run, because even if they win these next 3, it's not going to matter.
Does that save his job?
Man, I don't know. You and I have talked about this in the past, that if you're certain that you're moving on from him,
you got to announce it. Do you
announce it before the tournament so you don't run into that? Now, do I think that this team is able to win 4 games in 4 days and do it against quality competition? No. But stranger things have happened. I mean, nobody saw the NC State run coming a couple years ago, and that saved Kevin Keats' job for 10 months. I don't know. This team just has not been consistent at all this year, and I don't see them going on a run in Charlotte. So does it save his job if they win the ACC title and go to the tournament? I don't know. I mean, you go back to Kevin Keats saving his job with an unbelievable run in the ACC tournament. They then went on an unbelievable run in the NCAA tournament and got to the Final Four. So if you're saying if they just get to the tournament and then lose in the first round, probably not. I mean, it's hard to fire somebody after they go to a Final Four, though, and that's what NC State was faced with, and they kept him for 1 more year and 10 more months as it turned out, and then got rid of him. So we shall see how it plays out. But, yeah, these 3 regular season games don't really matter all that much in terms of the the NCAA tournament. All that their only shot now is to win the ACC in Charlotte. Why were you counting? What were you doing?
I'm just trying to see if they're playing on Tuesday or Wednesday.
So you got to finish 9th or better, right, to get out of that Tuesday game. Most likely they're going to be playing the extra game on Tuesday.
Yeah, if they're tied,
they were tied for 11th going into Saturday, and then they lost.
Yeah, they have the tiebreaker with only Cal that are in the same boat as them. So.
Yeah, so I mean, and you assume they're going to lose to Louisville. They're going to beat Pittsburgh, and then that Wake Forest game is a toss-up game. So most likely they're going to play Tuesday. We did have Mike McAllister on our show, as we do every Monday, and we led him off, as we usually do, by asking him for his thoughts on the most recent game, which was that loss to North Carolina on Saturday.
Yeah, just again disappointed in some things, like it felt like Donnie was very passive for most of the game and didn't really seem to be fighting to try to get his or make an imprint on the game. And they had some issues defensively. Offensively, they went through a few prolonged periods. Like you said, they get down and then they fight their way back, and then there always seems to be something that kind of is the catalyst to things. And it felt like when they tied it up at 44, North Carolina calls timeout and scores, and then it was a careless turnover. I think it was JJ who got tried to cross someone over and got the ball stolen, and North Carolina went the other way and scored an easy bucket. And it kind of felt like at that point the entire momentum of the game changed. It went from Syracuse kind of feeling like that they've got a shot to, kind of feeling like here we go again, and it just kind of unraveled from there and was never really, a game after that. And given who they were honoring and the fact that it was the biggest home game of the year, I still keep going back to some things that I saw early in the season that I'm not seeing now. The defensive intensity that we saw early in the season when they were one of the best by all metrics defensive teams in the country, all the way up through the Tennessee game, basically. Even Donnie Freeman being aggressive, but not just aggressive, but also early in the season, I keep going back to that Monmouth game. He's pulling guys into huddles and talking to guys and acting like a leader and all those types of things. And I haven't seen that much from him lately either. So it feels like some sort of dynamic within this team has changed. I just can't put my finger on it, but it just seems so much different from what we saw earlier in the year.
You mentioned Donnie, and not only has he struggled the last 3 games against top 20 opponents, Duke, Virginia, and North Carolina, but now it seems like his frustration is boiling over. A couple of technicals in this one. Wasn't that long ago we were talking about him as best player on the team and borderline NBA talent, and it seems like that talk track has certainly fallen off, and Nate Kings might be the best player on the team now, and Donnie's clearly struggling. What has happened with him? And I guess how do you evaluate his 2 seasons on the Hill? Injuries both years, and just never quite delivered on the kind of potential we thought he had.
Yeah, I understand why fans are frustrated for sure. I think year one, you kind of give him an incomplete, right? We know that team wasn't very good. The roster construction was pretty poor. And then obviously with the injury that caused him to miss as many games as it did. This year, a little bit different. I think we saw some really good flashes early in the season from him that we thought that, his game had taken a step forward and we're pretty encouraged. And then when ACC play started, it felt like he was sort of taking control of the team, right? That he was kind of putting everything on his back and saying, hey, I'm going to be the guy, and, played really well against Pittsburgh and Georgia Tech in the second half against Clemson and Florida State. And then it seems like from that Boston College game on, almost everything with this team has just sort of fallen off, and he's been kind of up and down and had more bad games than good games. And I don't exactly know how to evaluate him because I still think the talent is there. I still think he's an NBA talent from just a raw talent perspective. But, I think he probably, if he wants to be a first-round NBA draft pick, he needs another year in college to prove that he's taken some of those other steps.
What did you see of the offense? There's a lot of missed shots in this game. Were they good looks, bad looks, from your opinion?
There's 2 things, right? So I do think that they missed a lot of good shots. A lot of the 3-point shots are ones that you'd want, like Nate Kings missed a few. Tyler Betsy missed a couple. Donnie took a couple I thought that were good looks. Sometimes he just missed shots, and I think that happened to some extent. But at the same time, there were also large stretches where they had similar issues that they've had all season, lack of movement. Nate George kind of dribbling the ball up around the top of the key and not really doing anything with it, and that kind of makes everything else stagnant. There were a lot of issues offensively in this game, and I think motion is a big part of it. Missing open shots is certainly playing a role, but it just doesn't seem like the confidence as a group is there when they get into the half court. When they're able to get out and transition, that seems very natural and pretty easy still. But when they're in the half court, it's very up and down throughout an entire game, and there's a lot of isolation ball and lack of movement. But I still think they're at their best when JJ's at the one and trying to create. We just don't see that a ton.
Syracuse 3 for 17 from 3-point range, and it's been an ongoing problem for this team, not just this year, but in recent years. All 3 years with Red as head coach, the 3-point shooting numbers have been underwhelming. Do you look at it as, the bigger issue in that is roster construction? Is it scheme? Is it a combination of both? Or what do you point your finger to in that situation with, the 3-point shooting numbers not being where you would want them to be?
It's usually not just one thing, right? It's just it's definitely this and only this. So there's probably issues all around, right? Offensive system could play a role. Roster construction could play a role. But I mean, you look at some of the guys like Tyler Betsy has shot the ball very well this year. Nate Kings has come on and shot the ball well. Donnie Freeman went through a stretch where he was shooting the ball really well from the outside, and that's fallen off. But, JJ hasn't taken a jump there, and it doesn't seem like they get those guys on the floor at the same time all that much. Like, you don't have a ton of time where you've got Betsy, Freeman, and Kings all on the floor at the same time. So if you've got, three good outside shooters, three shooters that you think the defense has to respect, and you can't get them on the floor at the same time, that also is an issue. So perhaps even if you've got 3 or 4 shooters, if they're all forwards, that limits your ability to have, 3 or 4 guys on the floor at the same time that can stretch defense, which can then allow a guy like a JJ to have a little bit more spacing and attack. But I think it's probably a combination of a lot of things. And then, sometimes guys have a little bit of a down year as well. Sometimes it takes guys a while that weren't here previously to adjust to shooting in the dome. I think that might have been part of Nate King's issue early in the season. So it's probably a combination of all of those things.
All right, Mike, as we kind of look forward now, there's a lot of talk on our show and others about, a couple of specific candidates. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on the various guys that seem to be gaining the most traction. Let me start with an SU guy, and I know some fans say they don't want anybody who's part of the family, but Mike Hopkins,
right,
it seems like is very much in the mix for this position. What do you think the fan reaction would be? I guess, what would your reaction be if Mike Hopkins were the guy?
There's going to be whoever they hire is going to be criticized in some capacity, right? If Syracuse got Mark Few from Gonzaga, people would criticize it. If they talk Jay Wright out of retirement, it would be criticized by somebody. So someone's going to criticize it no matter what. That said, Mike Hopkins, I think, for those that want to go, quote unquote, outside the family, the benefit that you have from him is he's several years removed from being a coach here. He had those several years at Washington and then has been in the NBA ever since. So it's been a while since he's been here. That might help in terms of the reaction there. But I also think with his personality, it's such that his opening press conference, I think he's going to win a lot of those people back because just the way that he is and how energetic he is, I think he'd be really good at getting the donors to contribute to the NIL. I think with the way that he would approach that opening press conference, he would get a lot of fans to start contributing to NIL or continue to contribute to NIL for those who already are. So I think just my initial reaction is I think he would be a really positive from that standpoint. As far as his coaching and X's and O's and all that, he had a couple of good years at Washington, had a few not so good years at Washington, so I don't know how that would work out. But just from an NIL perspective, I think he would do a lot of good things.
And I do bet that he would have the support of the former players by and large, which is something that I think is going to be taken into account. Now,
and nobody wins at Washington.
Well, I mean, there is some truth to that. But something that they're going to have to discuss. Now, if they go outside the family, probably the hottest name outside of Josh Schertz, I think a lot of people don't think Schertz is going to come here, would be Brian Hodgson down in South Florida. What are your thoughts on him and potentially being a fit? He's got the ties to the Western New York area and all that. What do you think about the potential of him coming here? Would he be a good fit?
He almost might be the best of both worlds because he's not, quote unquote, in the family, meaning part of the Boeheim coaching tree. But as you mentioned, grew up in Western New York, grew up a Syracuse fan. So he loves the area, knows the area, loves the program. And so he brings that same love for Syracuse University that a lot of fans have, right? And he'd be able to relate to them for that. And he has a reputation of being really good in terms of NIL fundraising, both at Arkansas State and at South Florida during his head coaching career. As an assistant, he was Nate Oates' top recruiter, both at Alabama. So he's done a really good job. He recruited really well at Arkansas State, had some of their highest ranked recruits that they've ever gotten. He's doing well at South Florida in early in his career there. So there's a lot to like. He checks a lot of boxes. I think the fact that he has basically only positive head coaching experience, has a reputation of as a good recruiter, and has the experience, increasing the NIL revenue stream. All of those are boxes that he would check, I think, for sure.
I've heard a lot of people say if he wins the conference tournament, I know that matters, but if he's the guy, right? Like if they get to the conference championship game and he loses, does that cost him the job per se? Or, I don't know. I guess to me, if they're sold on him, they're sold on him. It doesn't matter if he wins one extra game or not.
Yeah, I don't think that would change things. Think about this scenario, right? What if his team is up by 2 and the other team hits a full court shot at the buzzer to win? Yeah. Is he all of a sudden a worse coach now? The same thing I said about Jim Boeheim before he won his NCAA or his championship in 2003. Derek Coleman missing a couple of free throws doesn't suddenly make Jim Boeheim a worse coach. That stuff happens. So similarly, I don't think that would deter anyone. My guess is that they probably have a pretty good idea of the guys that they want that are kind of at the top of the list, and I don't think the results from this point on are going to change that too much.
Well, I said at the top of the show that it was a rough weekend all around for SU athletics. We talked about the men's basketball team losing to North Carolina. Women's basketball dropped a tough one on the road, and then men's lacrosse losing at Harvard. Women's basketball was important because they went on the road to take on NC State. It was a quad one opportunity, and we've discussed the ESPN projections right now have Syracuse in an 8-9 game in the NCAA tournament, and you want to avoid that if you can at all costs, because then you end up playing the top seed on their home floor. You would love to get off that line, get to a 6 seed or a 7 seed. This was one of those games that could have moved them off that line. They got down early against NC State and then couldn't respond. They are also needing to probably win these next 2 games to have any shot at a top 4 seed and a double bye in the ACC tournament. If they lose on the road at Notre Dame, they're certainly going to have to play the extra game, and they certainly would, most likely have to do some damage in the ACC tournament to get off that 8-9 line, hopefully, so that you can avoid facing a top seed on their home court.
Yeah. And then the lacrosse team lost also to Harvard. Harvard gives them fits, and it just being, their number. I'm not worried about it. Yeah, going undefeated probably wasn't in the books anyways, but you just got to hope it doesn't spiral or anything.
Right, and it's a learning experience, right? You didn't handle beating the top-ranked team as well as you wish you could have or maybe should have. And you go on the road, and, Paul Carcaterra called it on Friday. He said it's going to be a tough game. It's outdoors. It's going to be snowing. It's going to be cold. Harvard is used to that. They just played Colgate outdoors in a cold environment. Syracuse was not used to it, and Harvard took advantage and won the game. We did have Tim Leonard on our show to talk about both women's basketball and men's lacrosse. He calls the games for both teams. He shared his thoughts about the weekend. All right, Tim, let's talk about a few of the events from the weekend, if we could, outside of the men's basketball team. Women's basketball, men's lacrosse, both suffering some tough losses. Let's start with women's basketball because we've been talking a lot of hoops on the show today. We talked about how it was going to be a really important game, right? If they could beat NC State, now all of a sudden it makes that top 4 seed in the ACC tournament very real. Maybe it moves them off that 8-9 line in the NCAA tournament, but got down early and couldn't get it done.
Yeah, they've gotten off to a lot of slow starts against the best teams in the ACC, and it's tough because I know Coach Jack's message to the team is we can hang with these teams. If we play the way that we play every game against the other teams in the league, we will be right there throughout the game. And in the case of this NC State game, they're down by 13 at the end of the first quarter, or maybe it was 12. I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, they're right in the game from the first quarter onward, and really they outplayed them in the third quarter. They played fine in the fourth quarter. So we know they can make adjustments. We know that they have the proper personnel to be playing a little bit better against some of these tough teams. But I do think NC State, it was just a tough spot to catch them. NC State had lost their last 2 games. They have not dropped 3 games in a row in 7 seasons. So I kind of have my guard up going into that game that it was sort of a tough spot for Syracuse. Frustrating to see them get down big and kind of follow the same script. I just want to see them play a good first quarter and then see how they stack up for 4 quarters after that against a top 25 caliber team. And they'll get a chance against Notre Dame on the road, and I think that's a team that they're capable of beating. They've just got to find a way to come out a little bit more confident in the first quarter.
Would a win over Notre Dame on the road move the needle enough to get them off that 8-9 line where the projections are right now?
I think so. Yeah, that would be their best win of the season. It'd be their second quad 1 win. The good news yesterday is Clemson and Virginia had big upsets in the league. Virginia went to Louisville and won the game. So that was kind of good news, bad news. The good news being that Virginia is a quad 1 win for Syracuse. That boost their quad 1 win now that Virginia is firmly in the tournament, probably. And Clemson, also a team they just beat, went and beat Duke at the buzzer, a crazy buzzer beater 3. So that was good news, but also that means that Virginia is now maybe in the conversation to get the double bye along with Syracuse, and Clemson is in that conversation. So it's very jam-packed there for getting the double bye. They're going to have to beat Notre Dame to have any chance of getting the double bye in the ACC tournament.
All right, how about men's lacrosse? We had Paul Carcaterra on the show Friday, and he warned us. He said, listen, this is not going to be an easy game. It's going to be cold. It's going to be snowing. It's outside. Harvard plays Syracuse tough. And then, sure enough, Harvard played Syracuse tough and knocked them off. Your thoughts coming off of that game?
I think Harvard is top 5 good. And when I chatted with the coaches last year, they were more scared to go up against Harvard than really anyone else in the country, and that's because Harvard's offense is so athletic, so good at beating you off the dodge, so many good shooters, really deep, really talented. The problem, Harvard may have been the best team in the country last year. They just did not win the faceoffs all throughout the year. And in this game, they were able to make it even in the faceoff category, and they beat Syracuse by a goal. It could have gone the other way. And yeah, I think there's something to be said for Syracuse playing outdoors. Doesn't look as good as they do when they play indoors. And I'm sure that they're going to be fighting that narrative going forward. And they'll go on the road to Princeton here Friday afternoon. Princeton just beat Maryland. Princeton is really talented. Of course, it's a quarterfinal rematch from last year. And that doesn't look like it's going to be the nicest weather game. I don't think it's going to be snowing, but it's going to be probably in the mid-30s or low 40s. So they'll be outdoors at Princeton, outdoors at Penn, and they'll get an opportunity to play better outdoors. And I'm not too worried. I think right now the lacrosse world is everyone's just throwing their hands up at who the best teams are currently because there's been some wild results early on in the season. We just got to let the season play out, and I'm sure Syracuse will be right there at the end of the season.
Next up for women's basketball on the road to take on Notre Dame. And next up for men's lacrosse, they've got another Ivy League team on the road at Princeton on Friday, the second of 6 straight away from the Dome for Gary Gates' squad. So looking to bounce back there against a Princeton team, by the way, that was picked 3rd in the preseason and then has gotten off to a slow start here in 2026.
Yeah, it's a they didn't duck anybody on the schedule this year, so it's going to be tough. Just got to win some games. We say that about every sport, though, Steve.
Just win, baby.
National Banana Bread Day.
Oh, yeah?
Where does that fall on your list?
I like banana bread.
Breads with...
I do not discriminate when it comes to breads. I love bread.
Okay. I know that. That's right.
And I do like banana bread.
Okay.
You know what? Banana bread with chocolate chips in it, I like that even better.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah.
And you're not a big chocolate guy.
I don't love chocolate, but I love a hint of chocolate, and the chocolate chips are just enough.
All right, there you go. So if you're looking to get Steve anything for...
Well, I don't know if that would be my first choice. Apple pie would be my first choice. If you're actually looking to get Steve something, apple pie.
All right.
But I like banana bread with some chocolate chips. Okay.
Cornbread?
I don't discriminate. Not my favorite.
I love cornbread.
It's lower on the pecking order, but
okay.
I would eat cornbread. All right, we got to go. For Paulie, I'm Steve. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, everybody.
Download the WSYR Plus app on your TV to stream News Channel 9 for free. Just go to your smart TV, search WSYR Plus in the App Store, and download to start streaming today.